Family, welcome back to Royal Sussex Squad, where we celebrate Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, with love, honesty and respect. Here we strip away the tabloid spin, call out the palace games and shine a light on the truth. Today we're going to break down this latest round of so-called royal drama because the British press is at it again, trying to whip up outrage over Harry's choices. And as usual, we're going to flip the script, put things into their proper context, and show why Harry is absolutely right to walk his own path. So let's start with the headline that's been making the rounds. Prince Harry's move left Palace reeling at a stitch up. Now pause for a second. Doesn't that wording sound loaded? Doesn't it sound like Harry carried out some sneaky, underhanded scheme? That's exactly what the tabloids want you to think. They want to portray Harry as this rogue prince undermining the palace at every turn. But when you look at the actual facts, it's laughable. All Harry did was give an interview to the BBC, and the palace only learned about it shortly before it aired. That's it. That's the so-called stitch-up. You see, the outrage isn't about the timing. It's about control. The palace wants to control Harry, and the fact that they can't stand over him and dictate his every move is what really has them rattled. Let's remember who we're talking about here. This is the same Prince Harry who spent his life being used as a convenient distraction whenever the palace needed to bury a bad story. This is the same Harry who watched as his wife Meghan was torn apart day after day by vicious lies in the press, while palace courtiers looked the other way or even fed the fire. This is the same Harry who fought in war, who gave his all in service and yet was stripped of taxpayer-funded security when he dared to step away. And after all of that, after all of the betrayals, he's still expected to send the palace a polite heads-up every time he opens his mouth? Give me a break. What these so-called insiders are really angry about is that Harry has found a way to speak his truth without their permission. That's what they call a stitch-up. But let's call it what it really is: freedom, independence, integrity. Harry is no longer a puppet, and that terrifies them. Because as long as he keeps speaking, people will hear a very different story than the one the palace and tabloids are selling. Now the article drags up the usual references: Harry's Netflix docuseries with Meghan, his memoir Spare, and the interviews he's given over the years. They frame these as attacks on the monarchy, but let's be clear, these weren't acts of revenge, they were acts of survival. Harry was suffocating under the weight of lies and manipulation, and Meghan was being driven to the brink by a press machine that treated her like an enemy for daring to exist. The docuseries, the book, the interviews, these were Harry reclaiming his own story, putting his truth on record, and making sure his children grow up knowing who their parents really are, not the caricatures splashed across tabloids. And what's fascinating is how the press tries to guilt Harry into silence now that both King Charles and Princess Kate are facing health battles. They whisper about how he should hold back, how it's unkind to speak. But the truth is, Harry has already shown respect. He hasn't lashed out in the past year. He hasn't made it personal. He has been calm, he has been measured, and he has been compassionate. But compassion does not mean erasing your voice. Compassion does not mean surrendering to the very system that tried to break you. Harry has found a way to strike a balance. He can show respect for his father's position and still insist on his own independence. That balance is exactly what the palace doesn't know how to handle. And then we have this so-called clever tactic that even royal staffers are admitting was smart. Harry reportedly offered to share his schedule with the palace so that his events wouldn't clash with the king's. Now think about how extraordinary that is. He doesn't owe them that. He doesn't owe them anything. He's the one who was pushed out, denied security and smeared. Yet he is still willing to be courteous, still willing to cooperate just enough to keep things smooth. That isn't weakness, that's strength, that's maturity, that's diplomacy. Harry is showing the palace how it's done. You can disagree, you can walk away, you can live on your own terms and still treat people with courtesy. That is true leadership. The palace doesn't know what to do with that, because for them it's always been black or white. Either you're under their control completely or you're the enemy. Harry has found the middle ground and it's brilliant. He's saying, I won't be silenced, but I won't be petty either. I won't bend, but I won't be cruel. That kind of grace completely undercuts the narrative that he's bitter or out for revenge. And that's why they're so threatened. And let's talk about Harry's tribute on VJ Day. While the King and Queen attended the official commemoration at the Arboretum, Harry quietly left a wreath and a letter in honour of his late grandfather, Prince Philip. He didn't grandstand, he didn't try to compete for attention, he simply showed respect. That's dignity, that's class, that's Harry through and through. Even Grant Harold, who worked closely with King Charles for years, admitted that Harry's gesture was nicely done. And you know what? When even former palace staffers can't deny Harry's grace, you know the truth is undeniable. The press, of course, doesn't want to highlight that side. They'd rather spin this narrative of Harry as a schemer, of Harry as the cause of conflict. But let's break it down. What they call a stitch-up, I call independence. What they call a rift, I call courage. What they call criticism, I call truth. Harry is not the problem. Harry is the proof that you can walk away from a broken system and still live with dignity and purpose. And we cannot forget Meghan in all this. She is Harry's partner, his rock, his inspiration. Everything they've been through, they've faced together. Meghan has endured levels of hatred and lies that no one should ever have to face, and yet she continues to rise. She continues to succeed. She continues to thrive. And through it all, she's been the steady force by Harry's side, helping him carve out a new life of service, creativity and authenticity. The media tries to drag her name into every story to bait Harry, to stir anger, to rewrite her into the villain of his life. But the truth is the opposite. She is his light, his strength and his freedom. And together they are showing the world that you do not need to stay trapped in a toxic system to live a full and meaningful life. So when you see these headlines about insiders being reeling or the palace being stunned, don't be fooled. They're not stunned because Harry did something wrong. They're stunned because Harry is proving them wrong. He is proving that he doesn't need their machinery to have impact, to be respected, to live with purpose. Every time Harry and Meghan succeed, it's a reminder that the palace no longer controls the narrative. And that's what really scares them. Family, this is why we stand with the Sussexes, because their story isn't just about royalty, it's about resilience. It's about standing up to bullies, telling your truth and choosing love over fear. Every attack from the press, every snide remark from palace insiders, every negative headline only proves how powerful they really are. The more they try to drag Harry and Meghan down, the more they reveal their own fragility. And so we celebrate Harry's so-called stitch-up. We celebrate his cleverness, his dignity, his refusal to be cowed. We celebrate Meghan's strength, her brilliance, her grace under fire. Together they are a force that cannot be silenced, no matter how hard the tabloids try. Royal Family Live. Prince Harry's move that left palace reeling at stitch-up. Inside of the palace were reportedly only told minutes before dot. Since quitting royal life in 2020, Prince Harry has made a number of decisions that have caused a rift between himself and his royal relatives. Over the last 5 years, the Duke of Sussex, 40, has criticised the monarchy on a number of occasions, with the most significant cases being in the 2022 Netflix docuseries Harry and Meghan, and in his 2023 memoir, Spare. However, since 2024, when both King Charles and Princess Kate were diagnosed with cancer, Harry seemed to have stepped back from his public criticism of the firm until a few months ago. After losing his court appeal regarding his downgraded UK taxpayer-funded security rights in May, the Duke sat down with the BBC and made a series of new claims against the firm, according to royal expert Robert Hardman. This caused considerable irritation at the palace, with Hardman writing in the Daily Mail that the firm were only aware of the interview minutes before broadcast. A member of palace staff reportedly told Hardman, as the Duke of Sussex might say, it felt like a bit of a stitch-up. Prince Harry praised by former royal staffer over clever tactic. Amid peace talks, Prince Harry's latest move was described as a clever tactic, which could lead to a future truce with King Charles, a former royal staffer has claimed. The Duke of Sussex's relationship with the royal family turned sour after his sensational exit in 2020. But recently hopes for a reconciliation sparked after Harry's aides were seen having a meeting with those of the King in London. Reports even suggested the Duke had offered to disclose his official diary with the royal so that engagements do not clash. Meanwhile, on VJ Day, Harry left a wreath and a letter paying tribute to his late grandfather, Prince Philip, at the National Memorial Arboretum, where the King and Queen appeared for the 80th anniversary. Harry left a wreath and a letter paying tribute to his late grandfather, Prince Philip, at the National Memorial Arboretum, where the King and Queen appeared for the 80th anniversary of VJ Day. Now, former royal butler Grant Harold, who worked for King Charles for 7 years, said Harry's gesture was nicely done. Family, if you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to subscribe and join the Royal Sussex Squad. Hit that notification bell so you never miss when we come together to uplift Harry and Meghan and call out the nonsense. And if you'd like to support the channel, please consider hitting that super thanks button below. Every single contribution helps us keep spreading truth and love in the face of all the negativity. Until next time, stay strong, stay proud and keep standing with Harry and Meghan. Royal Sussex Squad signing out.